Leslie Smith with McCormick LA Public Relations, and today on my vlog, I have Harry Saltzgaver with the Grunion Gazette. And I've known Harry for a very long time, and he's one of those people that I am so grateful to have in my corner. Frankly, my business would not do as well as it does if Harry wasn't watching out for me. So I want to turn it over to him right now so he can introduce himself and we'll have a nice chat. Thanks.
Okay, well, I am indeed Harry Saltzgaver. You can always remember because I don't have any. So I've been the executive editor of the Grunion Gazette for about 31 years now. We are now affiliated with the company that owns the Press Telegram, the Long Beach Press Telegram. So my material also appears in the daily newspaper. But mostly I'm focused on community news, and that's what the Grunion Gazette has always been about, is the community. We don't report on anything beyond Long Beach, and we also don't use any wire. It's all locally generated material. That means that even if Leslie sends me a press release, I rewrite it and try to make it relevant to what we're talking about in the paper. So that's who I am. If you want to know anything about me personally, I'm married. We have 8 grandkids between us, and we have 2 loud and noisy dogs.
Very good. Well, maybe we'll meet the dogs today.
Maybe.
Maybe. Very good. So I remember when you came to Long Beach and took over at the Gazette, the Blozers owned the paper, and it was Joe Ponapinto was in your position. And then you came in and I said, boy, the Blozers like to hire funny names. And so, and I worked at the Board of Realtors at the time. I was their communications director, and I started bugging you for stories back then, only for them, and then started my business in '94, and then started bugging you for all kinds of different things. But was that the first job? Was the Gazette the first job that you had in California? Did you come to California for that?
No, actually, I had moved to California for a job in Oxnard for the daily up there, the Oxnard Press Courier. But that situation wasn't working out very well. So I was looking for another position. And I started out in Colorado, working for weekly newspapers back there, moved on to dailies there. And when I moved out to California, I worked for a daily. I was the night editor, and that was not a real fun position. So I wanted to get back to community newspapering, and it just so happened that it was John and Fran Blowitz.
Blowitz. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Blozers are carpet.
Yeah. But the Blowitzes just happened to be advertising for a replacement for Joe, who I think was going back to school. And it looked like a pretty good fit. So I came down and interviewed, and the week after that, I was looking for an apartment. And the rest, as they say, is history. I really come to love Long Beach, and I may not be a native, but I think people associate me with Long Beach now.
Yes. So case in point, Harry does fact checking on everything I say or write. Get the names right. That's the first one.
Yeah.
So and as you say, I mean, people do think of you as a native, I think, because you have thrown yourself into the community and really become part of the fabric of the community. And this week's Pinch of Salt, you talked about giving back to the community and the importance of that. Do you want to give us sort of a encapsulated format of the many municipal boards you've sat on? I know you've been commissioners and you've sat on lots of different things. Do you want to tell us about that a little bit?
Sure. Before I do want to say that I consider being involved in the community part of my job because we are a community newspaper and we're all about the community, and it doesn't make any sense to not be involved in the community. And I want to talk a little bit more about that later. But in the 30 years I've been here, I spent about 25 years on municipal boards and commissions. I was on the what at that time was called the Public Corporation for the Arts, now the Arts Council, the Parks and Rec Commission, The Water Commission was my most recent stint, and about 2 years ago, I retired from there, and I've been on a number of nonprofit boards, from the chamber to the Goodwill Board to Precious Lamb Preschool, and currently on the Salvation Army board and the Salvation Army Adult Recovery, or I'm sorry, Rehabilitation Center Advisory Board, and a number of other nonprofits, the Grand Prix Foundation, Los Alamitos, Rancho Los Alamitos Board. I have a hard time keeping track of them sometimes. I have to keep them on my calendar to make sure I know which one's which.
Sure.
So
Very
those are bad. That's about it for now.
Very good. So it's the Grand Prix Foundation was my first client when I came back down to California. Back down to Southern California. I was in Sacramento for a short time, and then called them and said, "Hey, I'm coming back, and I could probably take a stepped up role." I'd worked on, well, it was with Vistardis. I worked on the Maureen Vistardis, who sold ads for the Gazette for many years, and there they are.
Yeah, you can hear them now.
We worked on the Monte Carlo night when it was first started.
Sure.
So that was in the 90s, because I worked for the Board of Realtors then. And so, and then going back to that time, that's when Romero Black was very involved with the Board of Realtors, because the Gazette had a whole real estate section called On the Move. Back in the heyday of newspapers.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my next question. So, back then, people, that's how people got their news, right? This is pre-internet, or internet was sort of new. But well, gosh, late 90s, was when the internet started happening, and we bought our minutes from AOL to stay online.
Right.
But so much has changed.
Yeah, it really has. I think we started a www.gazettes.com in 98, I think it was.
Okay.
And at that time, that website was literally copies of the pages of the newspaper.
Sure.
That was what we called a website.
Yes. So, not interactive at all, just static. No. But you had a web presence, and that was important.
Right. Yeah, you had to be there. You had to be there when we started.
Very good. Yeah, that's what graphics were limited too. That's when everybody would buy their pre-printed, business cards and letterhead, and then just put it through your inkjet printer. Yeah. So and I have to remind my clients about this all the time, because a lot of them just say social media. And I say, you need to be in the news, because you need that third party vetting. It's otherwise you're just talking about yourself. And so what, right? Yeah. You're already doing that. So, and that's how I get them to say, well, okay, let's try a press release. And so, and they'll say, oh, that's old media. It's traditional media, I say. So do you see any advantages to how things have changed over the years?
Well, yeah, there are some, obviously. I have to keep reminding myself of that, because I'm both old and traditional. So that's kind of my preference. But the fact of the matter is, the internet and social media both have really expanded the reach of people and the number of platforms, number of ways that you can get your message out. It does have an issue in terms of credibility and in terms of views, if you will. When this first all started, it was all about capturing eyeballs, is what they called it. And you had to capture eyeballs to prove that you were a viable source, and to also prove to the advertisers that you were worth advertising on. That has gone away a little bit with the proliferation of all of the many websites and the many social media platforms now. I will tell you that there are still a large portion of the community who prefer the hard copy, prefer to have a newspaper in their hand, something that they can refer back to without going to their browser history, or they're trying to search what they saw once 3 weeks ago on a website that they just happened to scroll through. But I do have to say that the internet has vastly improved the democracy of information, if you will. It has allowed people to get their message out, be it good or bad. I have to add as a caveat, or true or false, if you will. But you now have a way to do that. You can have a website for, I think it's $29.95 on GoDaddy.
Right.
Yeah. So you can have your own website. That's not a problem. And there are plenty of programs that'll help you create one. What it doesn't do is convince people who are watching your website or looking at your social media that you have any credibility. And that's where something like the name of a paper can make a big difference. And the longevity of newspapers, Washington Post, New York Times, the Guardian from Britain, from England. Those are all websites that have the imprimatur of being good, credible sources of news. I would like to think that the Grunion and the Press Telegram and all of the other papers that are traditional have proven their credibility, excuse me, their credibility over time. So it's important that viewers or readers, whichever you want to call them, pay attention to where their source of information is coming from. The biggest issue today, obviously, is that's the only thing we've talked about since 2016 is false news. And that's the negative side of what the internet has done. It has allowed people to put things out there that are not validated or are just plain false. The anti-Semitic movement, the kind of opinions that are put out there as if they were fact, conspiracy theories as if they were fact. That means that you have to have a more educated and aware viewership. And it's up to people trying to get their messages across to find ways to prove what they're saying is true.
Sure.
And to be credible. One of the good things about being really old is I've been around for a while, and I think people believe that when I say something, I have the facts to back it up. And that's what is really important today, I think.
Yes, I agree. And the fourth estate, right, is what journalism is called, to keep everybody, up to date and keep news transparent and honest. And there is, like you're saying, there's so much opinion that starts to seep in. And so you've said so many things, and I love it. First, it's John Milton called it Aeropagitica, right? The marketplace of free ideas. And you do see that, yes, everybody has a voice on social media, and you can create your own website that, looks like you're more legitimate now about your opinions, but there is that responsibility of fact checking and, making sure that you are contributing society in a positive way with honesty and transparency. And that doesn't always happen. And that's part of the marketplace of free ideas, is everybody's voice is valid, right? If that is as presented as opinion.
Right. Yeah.
So you do get the good with the bad, but that's part of free speech, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And I would hate to see newspapers completely go away for people like you. And I can vouch for you. So for a few years, 2009 to 2011, I wrote for you and I loved learning. It was a great tutelage for me to be writing for you on the news side and not just issuing press releases. And it was so interesting to me when I would write something and you would say, oh, no, you can't say that. You can't say that, because I had my public relations flair to it. So I can remember specifically an article early on. Blair Cohn had just started at the Bixby Knolls Business Improvement Association, and he was standing in front of a whiteboard that was a calendar, and it was chock full. And I said, a cone stands in front of a calendar that's teeming, TEEMING. So at least I spelled it right, teeming with activities. And you said, that's your opinion. You can't put that in. I'm like, but no, look. He said, no. And I'm like, wow. So I'm like, I was so impressed and had so much respect for that. Like and then I went, oh, that's why he didn't publish that press release. That's why he did those kinds of things out. It is fun, and then what you're saying, that all the news sources now have a web presence. So that's what I tell my clients, get in the news, and then you can share that. That gives you can shout out the legitimacy of yourself by saying this legitimate source has given us their stamp of approval.
Right. I think, and this is a good tip for readers as well as it is for writers. The key is ask yourself, who says that? We call it attribution. You have to attribute a statement to the person. If I say Leslie Smith says, and someone knows who Leslie Smith is, they'll believe that. But if I say Che Guevara says, and they don't know Che Guevara from Adam, there's no reason to believe that it's true, or at least where it's coming from. That's one of the real keys to trying to suss out the whole conspiracy theory issue. Who says that there's something behind the back door in the pizza parlor? Who's saying that? And is there a reason they're saying that? And where's their proof of whether that's true or not?
Right. Isn't the joke something about, even if your mother says she loves you, you need another source or something? You need a second source.
That's true. What does she say about you when you're not around?
That's different. I don't know and don't want to.
That's right.
Very good. Yeah. So it is interesting. And I think that people see value in it, and it's interesting. It's sort of turned a corner so that now social media companies, there's very few PR companies still around. There's some, but there's so many social media companies or SEO companies or marketing companies, and they're all creating so much content, but it's staying within their echo chamber. And so without doing some ads, and ads are iffy too. And because there's so much, they've gotten a lot more expensive than they used to be. And so now that's who I'm getting come to me saying, okay, we've done all the social media we possibly can. What can you write a press release and get this out there? And they're seeing good results because I think fewer people are sending out press releases.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. And a lot of people, as you say, I'm very involved in the community. And they come to me and say, why didn't anybody come to my event? That's because nobody knew about it. Yeah. And that's really a key. You mentioned advertising, and I think it's important to note that advertising, the internet is what killed newspapers. Craigslist killed classified newspapers, and that was a big revenue source. We're fortunate in the Gazette that we're able to dial down to the neighborhood, and especially in real estate, and that's where our key advertising is these days. We're able to dial down to the neighborhood level where people say, all right, I'd like to live in East Long Beach, so I'll go and look over here. Or I'd like to live in downtown, I'll go look over here. And they know that people are looking at the ads because it's a credible news source.
Mhm,
On the internet, again, you don't see as many ads, and they're a totally different type of advertising. It's frustrating to see all the stuff on Facebook. They call them sponsored.
Right,
Well, sponsored means they got paid to do that, to put that
right.
up. And people need realize that those are advertising too, I think.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
you're hearing people today with the Twitter situation today, you're hearing people talk about, well, I don't want to advertise there because I'm not sure that's a credible source anymore.
Oh, interesting.
So that's why they don't want to advertise. It's not that they don't like Elon Musk, is they're worried that they're going to be associated with something that's not palatable to the people they're trying to reach.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I will say too, especially when I was writing for you, because I do an old school press release.
Yes, you
It's
do.
still double spaced. I
Yes,
leave a
you
little
do.
extra space at top. I tell them I teach a class at the nonprofit partnership. I'm like, yeah, we used to mail these things. And it was a big deal to try to get your attention. And I can remember one time doing something for Buono's Pizza, and he had like dime beers and nickel slices for his 15th anniversary or something, and gluing a nickel and a dime to the press release and mailing them. And so, but when I was working for you, you would forward me a lead for a story and you'd say, here, take a look at this. And sometimes it was just an email from someone. And I felt you were more generous than most editors.
Mm,
And so, and maybe that's just your commitment to community,
yeah.
that they did what they could. Nonprofits, they don't have a lot of money, and that is why I teach classes at the nonprofit partnership. And I do teach how to write a press release, and I will
Right.
say, put all your opinions in your quotes.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
And the other part about nonprofits in particular is because a lot of them are volunteer, and a lot of those volunteers turn over every
Right.
year or every other year. Okay, I was PR person for a year, I can go and do something else now. Somebody else step up, and they don't have any experience at it.
Mhm, mhm.
So you have to continue to teach and continue to learn how to do things. And yeah, the big issue of trying to learn how to get noticed, I think, is it's something that you can teach forever, and something you teach well, and you should continue to teach that, because there's always going to be a need. Professionals are few and far between, especially if your budget's $100.
Right. Right. Someone called me the other day, and he had, I'm like, here, this is what I just told him what to do. I'm like, I'm going to eat up all your money in consulting. And that's why that doesn't help you. And I won't feel good about that.
Right,
in the end.
right.
I'm like, here, just do this and hire a student at $20 an hour, which you can afford, right? And it's more than minimum wage. And, and you just need a few hours a week, but I can't do $20 an hour.
Yeah.
But right. So very good. So I've appreciated your time. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to share?
Not that I can think of. Just
Okay.
be kind when you're trying to say something, wherever you say it. Be kind. And
Yes.
for you readers trying to figure out what's going on out there, make sure you know the people that you're taking your truth from, and that's really a key to me.
Very good. Well, you're very kind to me, and I'm going to contribute some gift cards to the Women's Shelter
Good.
Drive. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that you guys do that over and over again, and that's great. So thank you so much, Harry. And
Thank you.
I'll probably be sending you something soon.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
Great. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Take care.